Recorded at the WNDU 16 News Now studios, this is the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold Notre Dame Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, columnist Tom Noie, Notre Dame football beat writer Mike Berardino, and WNDU's Jackson Neill.
It is Thursday, January 15th, 2026, the first Pot of Gold podcast for the new year, and we interrupt this winter storm warning that has dumped upwards of around 2 feet of snow outside the WNDU studios here in downtown South Bend to bring you the latest Pot of Gold with Jackson Neill. I'm Tom Noie. We are in studio, and we'll let you guess who couldn't shovel their car out of their parking spot today, because he is coming to us remotely from points unknown, and that would be Mike Berardino.
Hello, gentlemen. How was the drive?
Drive wasn't too bad.
Drive was fine. It usually takes me 20 minutes. I think today it took me 19 because the entire city is basically shut down. There's no school. There's no nothing. There will be a Notre Dame women's basketball game tonight. Jackson, are you going?
I will be there. Yes.
I will be there as well. Mike will still be snowed into his residence. So we go on. And what entailed, what brought about this emergency? Is it an emergency? No, it's not that.
I wouldn't say emergency.
It's a different podcast to start out 2026. Well, what brought it upon us was the fact that Marcus Freeman, for the first time in 42 days, as you might have read in the South Bend Tribune or Indy Insider, decided that, you know what, it's time to meet the media. So Marcus Freeman steps in front of us, knuckleheads at Notre Dame Stadium, spoke for 38 minutes on Wednesday, and man, there was so much ground to cover that the topic of USC Notre Dame coming to an end did not come up for at least 30 minutes. Yeah, so busy time. One big question. We'll start it this way. What was your biggest takeaway, gentlemen, from the Marcus Freeman media session in mid-January?
Feels pretty good about this transfer portal group. I think that you could. I mean, he was, even without being able to talk about every one of them. He liked the process. This was the first one. I asked him the question about going through the transfer portal process with Mike Martin for the first time. He'd done recruiting with him, but a year ago, transfer portal time, that was Chad Bowden. So this one, and we'll get into it, but I think he was very pleased with how it turned out.
Jackson, your takeaway?
Not necessarily denying that he wants to be an NFL head coach one day, just kind of leaving that door pretty wide open, honestly. Just saying, like, oh, for now, everything I want is at Notre Dame, but do I want to be an NFL head coach? I don't know. I've never done it, obviously. Like, just leaving that door open.
It kind of has to, right?
Yep.
Like, isn't going to step up there and say, yeah, I'm at the University of Notre Dame for the next 9 years, and then I'm going to sail off into retirement. So I'm sure the NFL is something that's going to intrigue him as he goes deeper into his head coaching career. But I think right now, which is funny because it was the day before his press conference, so it was when Mike Tomlin decided, yeah, you know what, after 19 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and our own Mike Berardino has said, keep an eye on the Pittsburgh Steelers job when that opens. So that's not going to happen.
And the Ravens.
And the Baltimore Ravens.
Incredible. And we talked about that on multiple shows late in the year when people were starting to put out there the Giants and to a much lesser extent the Titans. But these were the two test cases, you might say. Now, I don't know if the Ravens, they seem to be a little earlier in their process. The Steelers are already interviewing people, but or at least one interview. But I would not have been shocked if this emergency podcast had been about Marcus Freeman at least interviewing for those jobs, going through the process. I have to say I'm not surprised necessarily, but that would not have surprised me because they are primo jobs with cultures in place and patient ownership groups. The two longest tenured coaches at that same spot have now been either in two different ways cleared out. And those jobs are open. And John Harbaugh already off to apparently take the Giants job that Marcus could have had. Must be pretty cool to be in such demand everywhere. It must be pretty cool. and that's what he's got.
Well, and Marcus Freeman was linked to the New York Giants job. There are reports that he didn't even talk to the New York Giants. Like that's.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that he did. I mean,
right.
We don't really know anything factual, for dead to rights, but there's enough back channels similar to the portal, and everyone knows that Clinton Dowdle's the guy who's going to have Marcus's ear. So if you want to feel things out, supposedly, it isn't the Steelers thing. This is, I guess, a big Notre Dame sidestepped a meteor this week because the Ravens and the Steelers will not be interviewing Marcus Freeman, and he got right out there and put it all to rest. He's here for the foreseeable future. These things can change year to year because college football, as he mentioned, college athletics, the landscape changes constantly. And who knows what it'll look like by the time the fall gets here, and certainly by the next NFL hiring cycle 1 year from now. It might be untenable. But right now, he's figured out a way forward. Notre Dame overall has figured out a path forward, and they're going to be one of the favorites to win to get back to a 12-team playoff. They're messing around with that as well. And they have probably one of the 3 top Heisman candidates in C.J. Carr, and he mentioned that too. First time he gets to come back with a returning quarterback, and that's a rarity.
First time since 2019 and 2020, those seasons that Notre Dame will have it's the same quarterback under center. Those 2 years it was Ian Book. Since then, Jack Cohn, Sam Hartman, Riley Leonard, C.J. Carr. Now again, C.J. Carr in 25. C.J. Carr in 26, and probably C.J. Carr not there in 2027. So Jackson's big takeaway was the NFL. Mike's big takeaway.
Did you skip over Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner?
I try to forget that season and what was going on with that. So yeah, it was okay. It was Jack Cohn in 21, Drew Pine and Tyler Buckner 22. Sam Hartman, 23, Riley Leonard, 24, C.J. Carr, 25, C.J. Carr, 26. So NFL, big takeaway. Transfer portal, big takeaway. I can't believe that I'm going to sit here and say this. A basketball guy is going to say this. But you know what my biggest takeaway about the Marcus Freeman press conference was?
Brad Stevens.
That's a good one.
That is not. I kind of miss covering Notre Dame football. Like it was weird being back there because that was the first time we were in that room in a press conference setting to talk about the actual team, not signing day. That signing day was the last time that Marcus Freeman was in front of us. That was December 3rd. But the last Monday was the Monday before Stanford, and we're talking about C.J. Carr, and we're talking about Jeremiah Love and the college football playoff and winning their 10th game in a row and everything that encompassed the 2025 season. And then just like that, it was gone. Like it was over. And we didn't have any closure as far as being able to talk to Marcus Freeman. We obviously didn't have a bowl game. We didn't have a college football playoff. And it just kind of ended. And then we were there yesterday, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of nice being back here.
It was nice, but as someone who's covering IU right now, I'm getting.
Look at you. We'll get to the national championship. We may even have a national championship prediction as our pot of bowl or our one what do we pot of bold or our hot take, whatever the heck it is. We're gonna pick the national championship game. Jackson Neill will be in South Florida for the game on Monday night, going down on Sunday.
Oh yeah.
To South Beach.
Hopefully there's not going to be 2 foot or 2 of snow on the ground down there in Miami.
The accommodations, I think, in South Beach are going to be a little bit nicer than what we had in Midtown Atlanta last year. So I hope you can make do with those.
I'll try my best.
Okay, so off season. Where do we start? We talked about the USC series. That's done. Marcus Freeman. His what? We'll play them anytime, anywhere. He kind of talked about that and said, "Well, you know what? I don't listen to the noise. I don't listen to the noise about that." Yes, you do, Marcus. Mm-hmm. You do. But it was interesting that he did say that USC wanted to move that game from the end of November in Week 12 to Week 0. And if you're Notre Dame, it doesn't matter if it's Notre Dame, USC, or whatever. You cannot open the 2026 season playing at USC in basically what would be the middle of summer out in Los Angeles and then come back and have to play Wisconsin at Lambeau Field for your opener in the Shamrock Series game. You just can't do that. Not with this team.
Wasn't there a report, or at least some speculation, that USC wanted this one in Mexico City, or was that just fanciful?
Mexico City and Vegas was also mentioned.
It was a Netflix deal. That was the reporting, was that Netflix would take the game. And,
yes. We talked about that on this show. We talked about it going back months again, that because the naming rights went to the game that's always played in Atlanta to start the year. I think we're going to see showcase games that were middling bowls moved to week 0. I think that's where the sport's going based on consistent reports you see out there and a little bit of actual movement. And because all these other streaming services, Netflix, Amazon, they're all going to have their own week 0 showcase thing. And the more the sport is taken away from ESPN's stranglehold, and the more it'll just bring more dollars into it and more locations, more trips, Jackson, more trips to warm locations. And but Mexico City in October or in August, that's pretty hot too.
Yes, that's not very conducive. And how do you get all the gear from South Bend, Indiana to Mexico City if that would have ever happened? That would be an interesting trip.
That'd be a really tough logistical trip.
Logistically, it would be a nightmare. So
yes.
Notre Dame, USC wanted Notre Dame to play week 0. If Notre Dame is opening against Rice at home, that would be something that you consider. But you have no idea what Wisconsin. You think Wisconsin's going to be a better football team in 2025 or 2026 than they were last season. But I just don't think you take that chance, especially given what happened at the start of the 25 season with the losses to Miami and Texas A&M, which basically kept Notre Dame out of the playoff and sent Notre Dame to the mantra of what, Jackson?
Leave no doubt. That is what I was looking through the transcript. He said that multiple times. That's the mantra. That's the message for 2026.
Leave no doubt. I asked Marcus Freeman about how he worked through the process of December 7th, 2025, when they wake up, they're going to the college football playoff. Then they're not going to the college football playoff, and then they're not going to any bowl game, and the season's over. And I was ready to push back on his answer was when he said, it's in a documentary. It's on Peacock. Watch it. I don't want to watch Peacock. That's why you're standing in front of us, is to give us your version and give us your feelings of what that day was like. If you told us just go watch it on TV, what are we doing here at Notre Dame? So, fortunately, he did follow up with my second question was about 26, and it was leave no doubt, leave no doubt, leave no doubt. So that will be coming to plenty of merch near you. Leave no doubt, hoodies, sweatshirts, T-shirts, because in 26, they've already talked about it. They had a team meeting this past weekend. The early enrollee freshmen moved in on Saturday. The team reconvened on Sunday, and Marcus Freeman tried it out. Leave no doubt.
The shirt, maybe?
Maybe the shirt. Do they do a T-shirt?
Yeah.
Just kidding. That's the worst. That's a podcast for another time. Man. So, all right. So
the initials are inconvenient for them. LND.
LND. Lose ND.
L. Yeah, that's not convenient. But I like the slogan itself, and I think that suggests that Rice better be ready for a 70 burger.
Well, we just saw one of those the last time we were in Notre Dame Stadium.
Yep,
with Syracuse losing 70-7. So obviously, January, big portal time. Raise your hands out there. Not you, Mike. Not you, Jackson. But our listeners. How many of you were ultimately unbelievably concerned when the first weekend went by and Notre Dame had 0 commitments out of the portal? Everybody, raise your hand. I see you. I know you're out there because I heard from you, text messages, email messages, fans at Notre Dame basketball games. What in the world is going on in the portal? All due time, because what did Mike Martin say yesterday to Marcus when Marcus was maybe getting a little anxious about what was going on in the portal? They had to run their own race. They ran their own race. What did that produce, Mr. Berardino?
5 former Big Ten players a former Alabama player who was once a 5-star
Who was a Notre Dame guy, right? As Marcus Freeman said.
And a guy from Pitt who Notre Dame did carve up their rushing defense, their highly regarded rushing defense, but it wasn't Francis Brew's fault. Apparently, they're pretty jacked about him, and Charlie Partridge knows him well. And then there's the kicker. Well, I guess no. Also the other conferences. I'm talking about the Colorado guy, DJ McKinney, and I'm sticking with no periods on that. I know there was another DJ McKinney out there, but it's so annoying. But it does stand for Dalen Jordan or something. But so technically it should have periods, but he doesn't do that on his social media. So I'm going to honor that. But I'll be asking when we finally meet him, do you want the periods or not? See it both ways.
That'll be.
It's very important from a journalistic point. We got to get it. If you can't even get the guy's initials right with periods or not, that's annoying. I'm sticking with no periods. I realize I'm against the grain on that, but that's how he does it.
That will be Mike Berardino's first question of one DJ McKinney. DJ, periods yes, periods no. What do you want?
I don't know. We got to know.
I can't wait for that clip.
All right.
RJ Oben, the same thing. We've been here before on this.
And what was RJ Oben's? Was it periods?
He said he preferred no periods. It had been a period because when he was at Duke and his social media, similar, no periods. He's Roman Jr., but whatever. It's up to the individual, I'd say.
All right, so Notre Dame has 8 portal additions. The 8th was Tion Gray, defensive tackle from Oregon. Oh, yeah, he comes in at 6'6", 340. He visited just this past weekend, or right now, like he was supposed to. I think he's still on campus now. Committed on Thursday, so they've got 8. Really, they've got 9 because they brought Armel Mukam back. Armel Mukam went into the transfer portal, kind of looked at his options, maybe lack of options, and called Marcus Freeman recently and said, hey, is it okay if I come back? So they have Armel Mukam. The others, as we mentioned, defensive tackle Francis Brew from Pittsburgh, wide receiver Mylan Graham, Ohio State, kicker Spencer Porath from Purdue, Keon Keeley, there's a name from the past, defensive lineman from Alabama, Jaden Sanders from Michigan. No periods on DJ McKinney, the cornerback from Colorado. Quincy Porter from Ohio State, wide receiver. And then we just mentioned Armel Mukam, Tion Gray. Those are your transfer portal additions. And I think one of the most intriguing aspects of this, gentlemen, is the fact that 7 of the 8 of the new transfers into Notre Dame football have multi-years of eligibility remaining, which is a little switch from the past.
Yeah, they're getting guys that are just, they have that level of like, okay, they can actually grow with this program. I think that's something that some programs around the country are starting to do. Especially, it was curious seeing the Ohio State wide receivers, both of them multiple years of eligibility. I mean, those are, in my mind, those are the big, really big pickups for them. That is, if they're able to get players like that in the portal and then retain them year over year, I think that's. Maybe you could see some type of advantage in that way where it's like, okay, rather than getting these guys where they learn the playbook over the summer or over the spring, get them in a couple seasons. That could be a type of advantage, I think, in the transfer portal.
Not a lot of one-year rentals with this group, might be.
No, and it's interesting. It's we didn't get into this yesterday. Question wasn't formed that way, and it came up a few times about this change of thinking. There's a shift in the admissions department apparently, and Mickey Kidder and their ability to honor more credits from other universities, and some are on the quarter system, and that's been Northwestern's one of those. That's been a problem in the past, and Duke was also, and that's why Riley Leonard still has work to do to get a degree if he wants it. I would imagine he does, but. The other thing that comes out is that I'm a little confused on this. Oh, I was going to say that Kurt Cignetti's getting a lot of attention. You might have heard, Jackson. Kurt Cignetti rules the portal. Not only did he strike fast the last 2 years, but his mantra is not leave no doubt, although they seem to run up the score in that regard. It's production over potential when they're going portal shopping. He wants guys who've proven it, even if at a smaller school. And, he brought a lot of his James Madison guys. And even as he's picked through it, it's, right down to Pat Coogan a year ago. It's guys who have significant production on their resume. It's not guys that you're betting with what still may come because they were so well regarded out of high school. And when you look at those two Ohio State guys, the wide receivers, yeah, they look great in the clips from practice. They look great on the 7-on-7 circuit. Everybody wanted them out of high school. Notre Dame would have taken them then if they could have got. I think there were some different academic issues at that time, but at least with one of them. But now all's good because they went on to college and they at least did the work for a while. But they got a lot of work to do to be graduates, and they also have not done very much at all on the field. So that's a potential over production choice. I'd also say that we should not forget that Elijah Hughes came here from USC a year ago. Ty Washington came here from Arkansas a year ago, and they're still going to play. They're still on track to play. They came here with multiple years of eligibility. And Riley Leonard, when he got here, as we said, he was not a grad transfer. So even though he just had the 1 year of eligibility. So this idea that it's brand new, no, it's been a subtle shift over the last few years. And even you go back to 22, the year that Tom's trying to forget, but the first year of Marcus Freeman, that was Brandon Joseph time, our old friend Brandon Joseph, and he came here from Northwestern. The credits didn't transfer enough. He left after 1 year. He had multiple years at his disposal, I believe, because of COVID. He would have had 2 more years if he wanted to stay, but he went into the draft and it went sideways. But they're definitely putting potential over production. Although the Sanders guy from Michigan did very well as a freshman, and McKinney has a lot of production at Oklahoma State and Colorado. But and they're also saying, give us multiple years to coach these guys up and get something out of them, because sometimes the transfers get here and they're just figuring it out, RJ Oben, as they're out the door. They're just then figuring it out. It's a culture shift and shock for many of them.
The best Brandon Joseph quote, Mike, you remember it?
Yeah, about Notre Dame Stadium?
No. Guys like me and Kyle Hamilton only come along every so often. And I was like, oh, really?
He was a quote machine. He went on to his detriment. He was a quote machine. He also was shocked that it was just called Notre Dame Stadium. He thought and he was probably he certainly was contemporary with that, but no, it'll never be Alltel Stadium at Notre Dame or anything.
Production over potential, Jackson. You see one guy. There's one guy maybe that I'm looking at on this list that he needs to produce the minute spring practice starts and the minute the 2026 season starts. Who do you think that is?
Spencer Porath, the kicker.
Oh, come on, no.
Oh, what?
I'm not choosing a kicker.
Okay,
we're not choosing kickers.
We just spent the entire like the last half of the season complaining about the kicking situation. This guy has never missed an extra point. How many times are we talking about missed extra points to end the Notre Dame season?
Okay, but he's a proven commodity. So he is more production than potential.
That's what you're asking. Who needs to produce?
When we look at Spencer Porath, we're like, all right, he didn't miss an extra point. He'll be fine. He'll be automatic. Mm-hmm. Nothing like the kicking situation. And I don't know if we complained about the kicking situation much last year, as much as we were concerned that eventually that's going to come up and bite Notre Dame, where they just couldn't get that thing figured out. I think when you bring a guy like Porath in from Purdue, who hasn't missed an extra point, I think he'll hit the ground running and be more along the lines of a Spencer Schrader or a Blake Grupe than a Noah Burnett. Mm-hmm. No, there's one guy I'm looking at that's on this list and saying production from the start. Let's go. Notre Dame needs it. Notre Dame can get it, and that's Keon Keeley. Mm. Did you see what Keon Keeley did in the Big 12 championship game? He was pretty good. Did you see what he did against Indiana in the limited snaps that we saw of him? He was pretty good. He can be really good as a defensive end for Notre Dame in 2026.
And Notre Dame is it feels shallow kind of at that position as well. Yeah, you're right. Okay, my next guess was going to be one of the defensive linemen.
No, you're a kicker.
No.
You're the kicker guy. You go after the kicker.
We were talking about, okay, we're talking about how they, there might be some in a close game there's going to be like margins a couple points, and Notre Dame last year this past season would not have been able to survive in games like that with that kicking situation. So give me Spencer Porath.
All right, so Notre Dame opens. When Notre Dame has its home opener in 2026 against Rice, your bold prediction is Spencer Porath's gonna bang one in.
Okay, wait, no,
50.
you were talking about the Wisconsin game, okay?
I'm not talking about the Wisconsin. I don't know what we're talking about.
Okay, no, you said right from the start. Earlier, you said right from the start you were talking about the Wisconsin opening this season. I'm going Spencer Porath. He's gonna hit a field goal in Lambeau Field
To win it?
not to win it, to go up in the first quarter or something.
3-0. 3-2 in the first quarter.
Yeah, something like that.
Nice.
I have a bold prediction.
All right.
When this fall gets here, Marcus Freeman will be coaching in an NFL stadium at least once.
Boy,
Wow.
the limbs that this show is going out on January 15th. He's only going to coach in one NFL stadium, Mike.
Now that's a bold prediction.
Yeah,
At
that
least
would be.
one.
At least one.
At least one. I'm feeling that. Yeah.
If they're, what do you got?
Well, you guys are you don't want to see it right out of the chute from Quincy Porter, for instance, who really was he only played 81 total snaps in his freshman year, and really I understand the people ahead of him are outstanding and they're always outstanding, but he certainly has got to scrape off some rust. And Mylan Graham was out there a lot, but more so just special teams and running around 161 snaps. But the last 3 games for Ohio State, he was out there for 2 total offensive snaps. So Mylan Graham is itching to do something, and I wonder, really, I mean, if you're CJ Carr, you're really excited about those extra weapons, but it's quite different than the weapons they brought in a year ago. Production over potential. Malachi Fields basically had the same excellent season 2 straight years of Virginia. And came here and was very good with the numbers down, though. And Will Pauling was pretty much a known quantity, even though he'd been in a couple of programs and becomes a captain. So these guys really have to. I mean, they go from suspect to can they live up to that massive prospect status? They're in a place where Mike Brown. There you go. You wanted these kind of guys. See what you do with them.
The Ohio State transfers that they've gotten out of the portal, yeah, they need to produce and they need to show. But also who I'm more intrigued about showing, guys like Cam Williams and Logan Saldate and Micah Gilbert. There are wide receivers that have been in the program now for 3 years where it's like, what are you waiting for? Like, let's go. We know what we're going to get from Jordan Faison. We think we know what we're going to get from Jaden Greathouse. We don't know about those other 3 guys, and if they don't show in the spring, then yeah, the fall is wide open for a guy from the coming in out of the transfer portal to step in and say, I played at Ohio State for a couple of years. I'm going to do more at Notre Dame.
Especially when the receivers you were playing behind at Ohio State are all-time talents, some all-time talents there.
Yeah, it's Brian Hartline leaving for the head coaching job at South Florida. Obviously a step down in competition, so he wasn't able to bring those guys with him. He's brought some other pieces down there, maybe from the defensive side of the ball, but that's not Power 4 ball. And I think that these guys, the fans certainly will be expecting to see these guys run around as like Jeremiah Smith Light or Brandon Innes at least, or Ibuka from the past, the future Ibukas. Why not? Because they had an assembly line. They have an assembly line at Ohio State, but they Hartline and his recruiting is out of the way, and that's a key piece as well in the next couple of years when you consider how anybody out there in the top 10, the usual suspects trying to get past that Ohio State situation, not just in the Big Ten, but deal with that Ohio State passing game. Even with Julian Sayin coming back, top 4 Heisman, and Jeremiah Smith coming back, the pipeline has been interrupted, and Notre Dame did a nice job here to peel off 2 of these guys who had as much potential as anybody.
You talked about Jeremiah Smith 2.0. I'll settle for Carnell Tate 2.0.
I'll take that.
No,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be too bad either. Like Jeremiah Smith is on another level.
Mm-hmm.
But if they can if they can be a second coming of Carnell Tate, that's not too shabby.
Exactly.
No,
So
that's where you learn. That's when you learn. Is it just about the separate? How much is the separation and the receiver talent, the ability to get open, to catch everything, catch radius, all the things, the speed to take the top off the defense, and now they do have the quarterback here. They do, and Mike Denbrock can scheme it up with anybody. So it's really just been a matter of then teaching them the intricacies of separation and beating the press and just being reliable. They really haven't had a chance to prove if they're reliable or not. On the practice field, clearly they may have been and just couldn't get past those other guys. So if you're going to bet on potential overproduction, that's the place to do it. Ohio State wide receivers that you already knew from the high school recruiting process.
If you're going to have portal additions, you're also going to have portal subtractions, and Notre Dame had a few. I'm going to run through the list real quick, and just so everybody knows. Wait, that guy left? Because as I was going through the list, and Mike had kept it up on our transfer portal tracker on ND Insider, and I was like, wait, he did go. So real quickly, the subtractions as of January 15th, and the portal is only open until Friday, right, Mike?
Yes, but they can land elsewhere beyond that.
Right, but you have to get in by Friday.
Yes, you do. And you're going to mention where they landed?
Yes.
Or do you want me to jump? Okay.
I'll just run through real quick the list. Safety, Jadon Blair, Missouri. Defensive lineman Joshua Burnham went to Indiana. Wide receiver KK Smith's at Michigan State. Safety, Tabron Benny Paul is at Boise State. Another safety, Ben Minich, Miami of Ohio. Linebacker Bodie Cahoon, Boston College. Linebacker Anthony Sacca, UCLA. Cornerback Carson Hobbs took his confidence to Florida State. Quarterback Kenny Minchie. Oh, he's going to Nebraska. Oh, no, wait, he's going to Kentucky. Cornerback Cree Thomas is at Colorado. Quarterback Anthony Rizak went to South Dakota State. Running back Jabron Payne, Cincinnati. Linebacker / defensive lineman Preston Zinter wound up at Rice. Not a list that you're maybe surprised that much. I think if there's one guy that you have to look at, maybe one or two. Maybe I would say if there's one, it might be Jadon Blair, because he was only a freshman, sophomore year. He may not play as much as he wants or much as he believes he can, but Adon Schuler is walking out the door in 2027. There may have been a spot for him. So there was one guy on the list that might have been him, but all those others, they were no-brainers, even a guy like Kenny Minchie. Are you holding up your finger there?
Josh Burnham, don't sell him short. Signetti was at the top of the heap and wasted no time going to get him. And this is a blood and guts guy. I mean, we've seen it. He played through injury the last 2 years. When he was out there in part of the pass rush, late in 24, a difference maker. When he was out there healthy in 25, it took him quite a while, but he factors. Per snap production was excellent. And I think he'll be missed. I mean, Boubacar's got to stay healthy. Apparently, he let the draft possibility pass him by for now. So he'll be back. And Keon Keeley, as you correctly said, time to produce, time to make every game like the first round game against Oklahoma. And can he do it? But, Josh Burnham, I suppose the knock is that he was wearing down physically. Nobody knows that more year to year what he had to deal with. Different types of injuries, too. Ankle and then a adductor. I always mess up abductor and adductor.
Adductor.
I think it's adductor. But I think he'll make an impact down there at Indiana. So I would include him. But Blair, yes. I mean, just by the eye test, to whatever that matters. I mean, that guy was taller than anybody else out there in the back end. Kyle Hamilton-ish in stature, but something just didn't click when he was here, and he just could not get into the mix. Luke Talich was more trusted, the former walk-on who's having a nice career. One more year of Luke Talich, I guess, but he was ahead of him and others in the rotation.
Jackson, can you get past the fact that Bodie Cahoon is not at Notre Dame anymore?
maybe, but I really can't get past the fact Anthony Sacca is. No, I'm just kidding. I agree with Mike, though. For me, the one in the moment, Burnham did jump out. But now, since seeing the additions, it all makes sense. But in the moment, when he announced and seeing Notre Dame was starting slow, that one did have me kind of worried what was going on with that position group. But after you see who they picked up with Keon Keeley, it kind of makes sense.
You also have to wonder if Joshua Burnham had a conversation with Mike Martin or Joshua Burnham's representatives had a conversation with Mike Martin as far as maybe having to take a possible pay cut because he was never. It seemed like it was such a struggle for him to get on the field, but once he was on the field,
it was good.
He was pretty darn good, but it seemed like he was hurt all the time. Probably didn't play as much as he wanted to play, and was going to Indiana along the same lines of a Pat Coogan. Like, all right, I'm going to Indiana. I know this is my last shot. I'm going to make it all worthwhile playing for the Hoosiers.
I think it's a good move for him. Like when I saw he's going to Indiana, I think now as the portal's kind of like settling down, I think it was right for Notre Dame to kind of focus on the Keon Keeley, focus on some of their defensive linemen, and then for Burnham, I think Indiana's the kind of perfect landing spot for that. If you're going to have one last chance, I think right now the Hoosiers are kind of the program you would want to bet on yourself in.
You know, I look at Keon Keeley showing up here, and again, we just saw him here or there when he'd be on the field. I didn't watch a lot of Alabama football in the regular seasons. We were watching Notre Dame football, but he didn't get out there too much in the regular season. Wouldn't you say that in bringing in Keon, and then, you know, he's kind of in competition for snaps, might even kind of rotate with Bryce Young. It's two guys, high-end potential, physically, again, look like they should be unblockable. For some reason, have been eminently blockable at times. And so maybe they add up to one superhuman at defensive end. But and last year was a tough year for Bryce Young in some ways because he just couldn't get to the quarterback nearly as much as we expect. I would have expected him maybe to lead the team in sacks. But those two, there's kind of similar skill sets just from the untrained eye. And I think that maybe combined, splitting the load there at the big defensive end could be pretty impressive.
We talk about defensive end. We talk about, well, maybe one of them could be a defensive tackle, maybe move him inside for a couple of snaps. They will be playing for a new position coach in Charlie Partridge. Al Washington has been bumped over to be the linebackers coach. That he's moved there. And then Charlie Partridge comes in from the Indianapolis Colts. Charlie Partridge has a little history with Chris Ash, Mike Berardino.
Yes, he does. It goes back to Drake University. That's another program I didn't get to catch much during the run. But Charlie Partridge was unblockable. Talk about unblockable. Apparently, when he played defensive line, he was a beast in their conference. Don't ask me exactly. I think no, I'm not going to try. But they were a small. He was a small college All-American. So, and then he goes on, and he's one of the most. We've heard this name for years. One of the most well-regarded guys. Former head coach at Florida Atlantic, the guy who taught J.J. Watt how to be a monster on the defensive line after being a former tight end, and Pitt. All those years at Pitt, where not only did he have to put up with Pat Narduzzi sticking his nose into things, but he was the one who was making sure that his defensive line was factoring in pass rush, monster guys, and several in the NFL. So there's a pipeline, and Notre Dame fans have seen the Pitt team a few times now. Charlie, the last 2 years, was in the NFL for the first time in his career with the Colts, and this year it fell apart mainly because of the offense, but defense wasn't great either. So there's certainly some frustration for him there, but now he gets to work with all these pieces of clay. And yes, Chris Ash, year two, you have to think he'll be more comfortable in this. How could he not? Especially the 10-game winning streak to end the year. And then he's got one of the guys, he was his old roommate. They're on the same team. Ash plays safety on those teams. When I talked to Rob Ash, their coach, which is a little confusing, no relation.
No relation.
No relation.
That's so weird.
Rob Ash and Chris Ash. Rob Ash, he just threw, they're very proud of Charlie Partridge out there in Iowa from that time at Drake, and then he goes on to Iowa State and many other places. The other thing, guys, they're putting, as I wrote at one point in this process, they're kind of putting together again the old Wisconsin Rose Bowl, 3 straight Rose Bowl trip Wisconsin staff. You had Ash on there, you had Partridge, you had Joe Rudolph, and you had Andy Boo for part of that. And Andy Boo, I believe, is still the senior analyst for linebackers here. So, these are 4 guys, veteran guys, all in their 50s, seen a lot of ball, and they're on that Notre Dame staff together.
When's Barry Alvarez coming then?
He was here before, and it went pretty well, didn't it?
It did go pretty well. And I cannot believe that you don't know, Mike Berardino, that the Drake Bulldogs play in the Pioneer League.
That's right. You got me.
The same division or the same conference as the University of Dayton. That's why I knew that.
Go
They're
Flyers.
in Des Moines, and don't they have Drake relays? They have a big track and field. But never been on that campus. I'm sure it's beautiful. I suppose we'll talk to Charlie Partridge in the next few weeks, we hope, and he'll regale us with some stories. So that was a heck of a hire. You lose Max Bulla and all his upside too. It totally made sense that he'd go to his alma mater, and he's a co-defensive coordinator. This guy was on his way he was on the move. With his reputation was with a bullet out there because of the way he was whenever he was in front of a camera, the way he was whenever we saw drills, what he did as a player. High energy guy. He's going to do great at Michigan State. So you swap all his potential for a guy with massive production in 3 decades as a coach. So that's not a bad trade for Notre Dame. And now Washington gets re-energized back to a position he's coached before. Linebackers, and he's got a nice group there. We gave an update too, and Marcus gave us that update. And you talk about Tom just getting back to covering football. It was kind of fun just to write up a little injury update. It was kind of, on Drake.
That's what you like?
That's no. That's the next category right here that I have. Injury updates. I was going to say, what's a Marcus Freeman press conference without an injury update? And we did have one. Thanks to our man from Irish Sports Daily, Matt Freeman, who broke the story about Drake Bowen having surgery on his hip, a little labrum issue. Will miss part of spring. Marcus Freeman said he might be back for spring in some capacity. And then Kingston Viliama-Asa had the knee injury late in the season. He will not be a part of spring, but Marcus Freeman's pretty confident that both those linebackers, both going to be key guys in 26, will be back at some point for the fall. So there's your injury update for 2026.
Hey, I think that's both pretty good news, especially for KVA. I mean, like both of those guys are going to be so kind of important to the heart and soul of the defense next season. So yeah, and especially with the knee injuries, you kind of never know how long that could be or kind of drag out.
I think it was good news too that they didn't get a laundry list of guys having any sort of cleanup injuries, cleanup surgeries. A shoulder or an elbow or a hand or a foot or something. If it's just Drake Bowen and Kingston Viliama-Asa in January and February as we head towards spring practice, that's a pretty good deal for Notre Dame football.
Well, it'd be surprising, right, based on the way ACL. Marcus said every ACL is different, of course, but the general range, fair to say, is somewhere in that 9 to 11 month range, and 9 months out because it happened on November 22nd, Senior Day, Syracuse for KVA is late August. And I think it'd be a big ask to expect him to be out there taking a full load of snaps in a game by Wisconsin, but maybe by the end of September, he's doing that. And in writing that nuts and bolts item yesterday, which we haven't had to do for a while. It's all been portal and this and that. And but I totally had missed this. If others have been belaboring this, kudos to them. But in looking at my Pro Football Focus breakdown and doing the sorting, you always knew. We've talked how good Kingston is, and the fans always want him on the field more, and I don't blame them. But they had a 4-man rotation, and I think they will again. But he had an 89.2 grade among all linebackers for Pro Football Focus, the overall grade, and that seemed really good. Well, that was second best at the Power 4 level, fourth best among everybody, And the only guy ahead of him at the Power 4 level was that Jacob Rodriguez of Texas Tech, and who won everything. It was just ran around. It was his video game. He won the Nagurski, the Bednarik, the Butkus, and Lombardi Award. So he's gone. He's off to the NFL. And if Kingston can get back there at least by mid-September, the floor is open for him to, on a per-snap basis, just blow stuff up. He does it quite well.
All right, pop quiz time. Marcus Freeman talked yesterday about the retention of the roster, said it speaks to the culture of this program, says these guys want to be here. They want to be a part of Notre Dame. They want to play for Notre Dame. They want to graduate from Notre Dame. As we sit here as the portal, like maybe something wild can always happen here in the next 24 hours, but who's the one guy you thought, I think he might be going in the portal, but said, yeah, I'm coming back for 26. Jackson, who's on the list? Give it to you on the fly, and don't give me another kicker.
Oh man, I did not have an answer for this one prepared.
Mike's going through his roster right now. I can see.
Yeah, why is Mike get a chance? Mike get a chance. Oh man, come back to me on this one. You got to go first on this one.
All
Tom.
right, Mike, you got a guy?
I thought Jalen Sneed was gone one way or the other.
That was mine.
I just think that he has failed to launch to the extent that a 5-star should, and he could have stayed. He could have gone to the portal back to SEC country. Guy from South Carolina, so one of those SEC schools would have paid him handsomely. I'm sure he's doing just fine here, but not being paid as a feature linebacker, but one of 4, and or the NFL could have been a possibility because I think his combine would have been insane. But he's here, and that reminds me that Notre Dame's not doing what other schools are starting to do. USC kind of invented it. Of course, Chad Bowden got that going where they announced the re-signing of the players.
Yeah.
Just totally treating it as total pro ball. We've re-signed so-and-so for 2026. And it struck me that maybe Notre Dame was going to have to do that at some point because that's how you get the word, especially during the first 10 days of the portal where they had no signings. Well, maybe they're not telegraphing their moves enough to everybody, like who's definitely coming back and who's not. But it all worked out in the end. But and I also look forward very much, I guess, at this point. I mean, I'm a little surprised we haven't reached it yet, but I suppose it's because of the whole are the employees or not. But more transparency. We've got to have across this industry. Fans should be able to know this is where they'll eventually be able to enforce the salary cap. You don't have the transparency because some teams are going to be $40 million rosters. Some are going to be 30, some are going to be 20, and some are going to be 5 or 10. And depending on the emphasis on the sport at the school, they've got to get to that where people can follow along and you talk about content, the additional content, the arguments, the podcasts the podcast we will have when we know that they wouldn't go to 800,000 for this guy, but they gave 600 to that guy. We've got to know that within a year.
Okay, so I was going to say is it's not so much you want to know how much the team is spending. You want to see how they're spending it. Like what wide receiver X is making as opposed to wide receiver Y.
Opening day baseball, full page, every salary thing. I want that for college football by 2027, week 0. Of course, they're going to need several pages with 130 some teams. But that's the only way that everybody will know what they're playing against because all these agents, and that's another thing. I mean, that's another show, but
that's another podcast.
It does appear, guys, that a lot of these early deals, one reason why it was smart to wait is a lot of these early deals are not going to pass muster at that little alphabet soup thing they created to make sure that the NIL was properly, tied to something legit, not just pay for play. Who knows how they're really going to be able to do it in the end? But right now, it sounds like some violations even of the protocol for that add-on, the tack-on, not just the rev share, but the NIL part has to have some validity to it. It can't just be like a no-show job like they did in the SEC forever. And, we'll see if there's any enforcement capability on that. I doubt it. So you want to go win a national championship. You're going to be up against a number of schools, Texas and friends, 40 to fit Ohio State. Who knows? They'll be at 50 million next year. People need to have more transparency. It's just not fair to make hiring and firing decisions and finger pointing and saying who's surprised and this and that. We're flying blind. We're flying blind on where is the money, where's it apportioned, where was a good spend, where was a bad spend. It's just guesstimation. It's about which agents want to put out which pretend numbers, and there's so many agents. It's a ridiculous number of them. It's not like 5 or 10 or 12 agencies. It seems like there are almost as many agents as there were guys in the portal, and that was a 4-figure number.
We've reached the point in our podcast where we're going to talk about Notre Dame men's basketball and Notre Dame women's basketball. All right, there we. That's it.
That's good.
That's it. We're done. That's another podcast show. We're not going to talk any basketball before we get to the championship game and whether or not Jackson packs his sunscreen and his. I
haven't even checked the weather. I just know it's going to be better than this. That's all I care about.
It can't be any worse than what you're looking at outside right now, can it? No. Before we get to that. The college football playoff unfolded, 12-team playoff unfolded without Notre Dame. Your thoughts on what the playoff has been all about, and how deep did it go for you where you kept thinking, man, Notre Dame should be there. No, we should be covering this team, or we should be covering this game, or we should be in this city. Notre Dame should be a part of this. It's weird that they're not. How deep has this gone, or has it subsided to where you were like, it's just weird that Notre Dame's not a part of this? What's the playoff been like for you?
It has felt kind of weird. I was down there in Atlanta covering the Indiana-Oregon game, and
humble brag a
little bit, and then now going to national champ. But like, really, when it felt really weird was watching that Indiana-Alabama game in the Rose Bowl,
right? And
just seeing Alabama get absolutely outclassed on that field. And look, I don't know if Notre Dame would have won that game. I don't know if Notre Dame would be able to beat this Indiana team. I know they could. At this point, I think they could obviously put up a fight against this Miami team, but like, it would not have been that bad. It would not have been that bad for Notre Dame to be if they were in the Rose Bowl. If they lost that game, it would not have been 38-3 or whatever it ended. I think watching the Alabama-Oklahoma and then the Alabama-Indiana games were the two games where I'm thinking to myself, man, Notre Dame right here, I think it could have been like, they're better than Alabama and Oklahoma. Even seeing that Indiana-Oregon game, I don't think Notre Dame would have kind of self-destructed like Oregon did in that first half. Even though Carr had made some mistakes this past season, I just don't see him making the types of mistakes that Dante Moore was making. It has felt very weird for me, even still throughout this playoffs, thinking, man, this year feels kind of open with the way that Miami's kind of run through this playoff bracket. This seemed like a year where if Notre Dame got in, I think they would have made a run.
They were going back to the championship game.
Maybe not.
I think they were.
I think they could have realistically got there. And I think if it kind of depends on when you face Indiana. For Indiana, like, I think Notre Dame could definitely beat the Hoosiers, but like, they would have been one of the best teams in this field. No question.
Who picked Indiana to win it all on the football show? Huh?
You did.
I did. I did pick Indiana. So those other the 3 of the 4 first-round games, James Madison, Oregon, didn't even care.
Yeah,
Ole Miss, whatever. Tulane, didn't even care. Even Miami, Texas A&M, I was more intrigued by just watching Miami play, go to College Station and win. But like you said, Jackson, the Alabama-Oklahoma game was the one that you just kind of just sat there while you watched it. You watched it. Like,
yep.
Like Notre Dame should have been there. They would have beaten Oklahoma. Then we would have gone to the Rose Bowl, and who knows what would have happened against Indiana. But at least we would have been able to say, all right, they got their shot against Indiana. Maybe they don't go. Maybe they don't lose 38-3 that the Hoosiers did to Alabama. But it's to the point now where you're just like, all right, it's over with. It's done. What about you, Mike B? Who's on the move? He's on the move.
Yeah,
we have a mobile Mike B.
I had to, my phone died. What's the question? A pick in the final?
No, we're not picking the final. How invested have you been in the college football playoff without Notre Dame as a part of it? Have you watched the college football playoff with the thought of, man, if Notre Dame was in that spot, they're beating that team? Or are you just watching it just like, I'm so glad I don't have to go back to Atlanta or South Florida again?
Depending on the game, I concur with the Alabama-Oklahoma game. That certainly was one. You kept shaking your head. It was really just two flawed teams, and with big names. Did not partake in the two games that should never have had to be played in the first round, the two blowouts. Didn't watch any of that. I'll own it. I said Georgia over Oregon in the final going into it because you always have to expect a little bit of surprise. So that did not happen. Georgia almost turning the clock back to early Kirby, Georgia, and Rick, Georgia. But I did think they were going to put a stamp on a modern dynasty, and they didn't have it. So love that Trinidad Chambliss though, and I guess we should have been going up and watching more Ferris State when he was there. So. Man, he's worth the price of admission. So that's, I guess, some of it. And Indiana, I'll save it for when you get to the next question. But I have been, you watch Pat Coogan with the pride of, hey, we know that guy, and it's amazing to see how he's blowing up. And that's also amazing that the Rose Bowl allows. One broadcast booth to
that's
vote
ridiculous.
On the That's just absolutely silly, but I'm happy for Pat Coogan.
Trinidad Chambliss, I got on this story late and would have pursued it had Ole Miss advanced. But you know where Trinidad Chambliss dreamed of playing quarterback?
Notre Dame.
At the University of Notre Dame with one of his best friends at wide receiver, the future first-round NBA draft pick, Blake Wesley. They went to Notre Dame football camp together when they were kids. What? Blake Wesley was going to be the wide receiver. Trinidad Chambliss, the Chambliss family and the Wesley family have basically known each other for the past 50 years. And I saw a picture on Facebook from Derek Wesley, Blake's dad, that Trinidad Chambliss, they were at Notre Dame football camp when they were maybe 9, 10 years old, really young. So that would have been interesting to follow. But we can't do that because come Monday, Martin Luther King Day, it will be the Miami Hurricanes and the Indiana Hoosiers down in South Florida, Hard Rock Stadium. Jackson Neill will be there. Are you making a pick?
I'll make a pick.
Make a pick.
I'll make a pick.
You got a pick?
You want me to pick it right now?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, give me IU.
If you talk long enough, Mike's phone may die and we may lose him. So
I'll make it quick.
In.
All right. I have IU winning 35-21. The Hoosiers, they just do everything right at every single phase of the game. They're just always making the right play. I mean, the wide receivers, seeing some of the catches. I mean, Fernando Mendoza will put it in the one place his receivers can catch it, and they'll still go. Surratt, Becker, Omar Cooper Jr., they'll just go up and make the play no matter what. It is every single part of that team is just so in the right place at the right time. The one chance I would say for Miami is if they're able to just have that defensive line, which I think is maybe one of the best position groups, if not the best position group in all of college football. If that's able to wreak havoc, that's how they stay in it. But something tells me that this Indiana defense is going to turn over Carson Beck more than once.
Yeah. Mike, what do you got?
I think Indiana wins, score maybe 31-17, something like that. And Carson Beck, a few picks and at least 2 picks. And the production over potential, the no stars over the 4 and 5 stars. It'll all be on display. It's been an incredible 2-year run. I have no reason to doubt Kurt Seaton. Last year when we were talking about Indiana and Notre Dame, Indiana seemed like a nice little story, and they just pop up, one of those pop-up teams, and good luck doing that again. They're here, and if he stays in college football for the remainder of his 60s, they're going to be a problem.
I will also go 31, but it will be 31-3, Indiana.
Wow.
I just don't. I think the physicality, I think the confidence and everything. Miami thinks they know what they're in for, but then once they see it, it's going to be like, oh, what are we doing here? And Carson Beck, like the run game, some of the mistakes that Carson Beck has made in the games previously, I don't think he's going to be able to get away with with Indiana, and it's just something. As I mentioned when we met Jackson last month to do that TV show, Indiana just has that look about them, and they're gonna write a story that is just not. There's no comparison. I think anywhere in sports, if what we're seeing from Indiana is true that it can happen again, then Boston College in 3 years is going to win a national championship. That would be the comparison. You get a low-level major college team from a major college conference that has done nothing for decades, and all of a sudden they're up winning 10, 11, 12, 16 games and winning a national championship. It's been the best story, and I think they write that story, and they write it easily Monday night in South Florida.
You just can't make any mistakes against them. As soon as you make a mistake, it just – because I will say, Oregon early in that game, their offensive line was actually not doing terrible against that Indiana defensive line. That one drive they scored on, it looked like, okay, this could be a game. You make one or two mistakes, and like they're going to make you pay to the full extent, and then after that, you're done.
You mean make a mistake as in throw a pick six on the first play of the game?
Okay, and like you're throwing it to the inside. If you want to really my like small prediction, I bet Miami tries a double move with Malachi Toney on the outside to try to maybe like bite that on Pons, how he got that pick six. Mm-hmm. I bet they try to do that and bet they'll throw like an interception to the safety.
Mike, any closing thoughts as we wrap up Pot of Gold here for mid-January?
No. I look forward to our next. I suppose it'll be in this format, and I would imagine it'll be what, Tom, around spring football. Do you think? Could you see us doing it sooner?
Maybe if we get access to the mid-year guys and the transfer portal guys, which we never got last year, right?
Never got that.
Mm-hmm.
Never got that. Oh, okay, all right, I'm up for that. But it's good to be talking football, and Wisconsin and Lambeau right around the corner.
Be here before you know it. We'll be here too. So for Jackson, for Mike, I'm Tom. This has been Pot of Gold, January 15th. Stay warm, stay safe. Stop snowing, please. Thank you.
This has been the South Bend Tribune's Pot of Gold podcast, your home for insightful Notre Dame football coverage and analysis.